Welcome, everyone. This is CLARB's very first Intro to Sponsorship webinar. We are so glad to have you. Before we get started, I just want to go over a couple of tech tips. So just a couple of housekeeping things. If you could please mute your microphone unless you are presenting. Use the Q&A function. You can ask questions at any time. This event is being recorded and we will send out a recording via email afterwards, and closed captioning is available. All right, so I am excited to introduce our presenters for today. So we have Matt Miller, he is CLARB's Chief Executive Officer. We have Veronica Meadows, she is CLARB's Chief Strategy Officer. And I am Melissa Torrance. I am CLARB's Communications and Outreach Manager. So for today, we're going to start by telling you a little bit about CLARB and our audiences. We are going to introduce our sponsorship program overall. There are three main parts to it. So the Supporting Partners Program, the CLARB annual meeting, and then advertising opportunities we have through our partners at Multiview. And then we'll talk a little bit about how to get started. So with that, I am going to hand things over to Matt.
Thanks, Alyssa. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. One of the things I just want to talk a little bit about before we get too much into sponsorship is what is CLARB? I know I like to think here that CLARB is one of the best kept secrets in landscape architecture. We are a nonprofit organization. We're a 501c6 with the same tax exempt status as the American Society of Landscape Architects, but our mission is a little bit different. Our mission is really more focused on public protection through public health, safety, and welfare, and we do that by setting standards for landscape architecture practice. You'll see that show up in the landscape architecture regulation exam, registration exam, also known as the LARE. We also have what I call like the LinkedIn for LAs, verified council record, which we take the ability to verify your experience, education, and of course your examination, so that when you seek licensure as a practitioner in another jurisdiction, they can rest assured that all of your information is true and accurate, and it's we're kind of the trusted database that serves the regulatory community on landscape architecture. Our mission is around standards development, but we also support the recognition of landscape architecture as a whole, mostly as a STEM profession, but also as a design profession that deserves to be recognized alongside engineering and architecture. So a lot of the work that we do is centered around that. And we'll also like to talk about our members, our audiences, and some of the stakeholders that we have involved. And I think if we go on to the next slide, I can share a little bit about that with you. So we actually, at CLARB, our membership is much different than you might, if you think about ASLA in terms of individual members. Our members are actually entities. So there are 56 jurisdictions that regulate landscape architecture that are basically members of the organization for CLARB. Those different jurisdictions have slightly different regulations and slightly different standards, but all of them use the LARE as the kind of the core standard for measuring competency. So those boards are made up of a number of individuals. So anyone serving on a board that regulates landscape architecture in any of those jurisdictions is an individual member of CLARB. So we're kind of bound by that number. But our impact goes well beyond those 500 people that are members of licensing boards. We have somewhere between 6,500 and 7,000, what we would kind of refer to as customers. Those are people that are taking the exam, seeking to become licensed, looking to transmit or to become records to another jurisdiction, looking to become licensed in another jurisdiction, and they hold records with us that they need to be able to make that happen. And so we have regular communication and programs to interface with those customers and stakeholders across the board. We also, being a nonprofit, a lot of what we do is really dependent on the sweat, blood, and tears of volunteers. We have a board of 12, but we also have 60 to 80 more volunteers that serve on committees like the exam writing committee, our leadership advisory council, and a number of other work groups that focus on very time specific issues that might arise for us. We also partner with other nonprofit organizations within the landscape architecture space and the regulatory space. So those of you that are on here that are landscape architects probably know ASLA very well. You might be familiar with the Council of Educators in Landscape Architecture or the International Federation of Landscape Architects. Those are just a handful of the many international and national partners that we work with across the board to advance landscape architecture and the regulation of landscape architecture. We also work within the regulatory framework and an association leadership space. We actually just returned from the Architects Conference, which the organization is known as CLARB, that does everything that we do, but they do it for the architects. We work with the engineers and the surveyors, interior designers as part of a coalition. And we're also members of organizations that focus on regulation like CLARB and also specific STEM-based organizations like CES, which is the Council of Engineering and Scientific Society Executives. As we work to kind of advance all of those things, we're looking at more ways to allow people outside of that typical constituency base to support CLARB. And I think for us, this is what we're experimenting with: is how do we bring more people into the space that we work in? And Veronica is going to tell you a little bit about that, how we engage with those folks.
Thanks, Matt. So while CLARB has been around for nearly 55 years, sponsorship is very new to us. Our goal is really to provide opportunities for organizations that relate to the landscape architecture profession to align your brand with supporting licensure, while also supporting our mission to design and promote landscape architectural standards. Our sponsorship was developed and informed by a focus group of your peers, landscape architecture firms, suppliers, and others that we really learned from and helped us to build out our program. We are starting out relatively small with our program with a small number of opportunities that we hope to be able to expand upon in the future. Additionally, we have lots of improvements with how we interact with our stakeholders coming over the next year. We'll be launching a new website, transitioning to a new database, upgrading our email platform, and quite frankly, a new brand identity as well. So lots to look forward to coming up with CLARB. But let's dive into CLARB's newly launched sponsorship opportunities. The Supporting Partner Program provides opportunities for year-round visibility with emerging and licensed landscape architects. We offer in-person engagement with CLARB's members and volunteers and customers and other nonprofit organizations that Matt mentioned earlier each September through sponsorship opportunities at the CLARB annual meeting. And lastly, our bi-weekly email exposure to emerging and licensed landscape architects through advertising in the CLARB Council Record Connection distributed by Multiview. So let's jump into our Supporting Partner Program. This is really, like I said, an opportunity to align your brand as an organization with strengthening landscape architecture licensure. It increases your opportunity to visibility to our stakeholders, year round. And we also will offer unique and tailored benefits to meet your organization's individual needs. We do have a PDF one-pager available for you to download from our website. You can scan that little QR code, and we would encourage you to do so for additional information on the Supporting Partners Program. So in terms of what is kind of included in that Supporting Partners, you receive a diverse range of year-round benefits and recognition that includes engagement and access, so invitation to and complimentary participation in CLARB webinars for both members and council record holders, those emerging and licensed landscape architects, thought leadership content opportunities for supporting partners in the Insights section of CLARB's Council Record Connection biweekly newsletter, and the Supporting Partner Insights section of our website. Opportunities to partner with CLARB on engagement initiatives. So, for example, co-presenting in a webinar or arranging for a webinar series. Potentially in the future, scholarships and virtual tours of landscape architecture spaces. So we're really open to customizing this to your needs. In terms of communications and insight, regular updates on professional licensure, regulation, the LARE, key initiatives that CLARB is undertaking, and other related topics through your very own subscription to our new bi-weekly newsletter and subscription to our member communications that highlight upcoming engagement opportunities, regulatory updates, related news, particular to the regulatory community. In terms of your visibility and brand awareness, you will have presence on the CLARB Supporting Partner Program webpage, which would include your company name, logo, images, your website link, and a 100-word company description. New partner announcement and link to your company website in the CLARB newsletter, and recognition through CLARB social media channels, and special graphics or like a badge that you can use to show your support. And then lastly, CLARB supporting partners receive a 50% discount on all annual meeting sponsorships, which will start in 2025 for this particular benefit. And then exclusive and early access to reserve annual meeting sponsorships, access to our supporting partner registration rate for up to 2 attendees, and special recognition as a supporting partner throughout the meeting, our website, emails, apps, our slides on the screen, that sort of thing. And just to give you an idea of the fees associated with the supporting partner, this is based on an annual fee, and the terms are 12 months that start January 1 and expire December 31st of each year. And for those with the first year, fees would be prorated based on the month that you joined. And just so you can kind of see, we do anticipate about a 5% increase over, over the next 3 years. And now I'll turn it over to Matt to share some detailed information on opportunities for sponsorship at the annual meeting.
Excellent. So thanks, Veronica. I think it's a great overview. And I know when we have this new program, and so we're exploring it. I'm sure some folks are a little reticent to just jump in with a sponsoring partnership. But one of the things we've created is more sponsorship opportunities at our annual meeting. And for most people that have not been to the CLARB annual meeting, what I would say is what not to expect first, and then what to expect. What I would say first, what not to expect is a huge exhibit hall with 6,000 attendees. That's not what we are going to be able to offer. But what we are going to be able to offer is a much smaller footprint of between about 150 to 200 people that we'll have a lot of access to. And I would say that most attendees get to meet most of the other attendees throughout our meeting, which is where we think there's a really great opportunity to bring in those that are interested in supporting what we're doing at our annual meeting, and also engaging in meeting others that are interested in licensure, that are interested in how to advance the profession, and actually even talking about how to recruit and retain new talent. Our annual meeting takes place September almost every year. Now that changes from time to time. This year it's in Buffalo, New York, and we move it around the country so that we get the opportunity to give exposure to different places. The other thing about the annual meeting, it is not a governance meeting. It is a meeting that is very educational. We have sessions that cover everything from regulation on state standards to what regulation looks like around the world, to education requirements, to actually getting some really great keynotes. This year, we're going to have several on artificial intelligence and the impact of practice and to the profession. So if we go on, I'll tell you a little bit more onto the next slide. There's a few pictures here. One of the other really cool things is that we get leaders from the other organizations that attend that you might be familiar with. Every year, we are very, very privileged to have the ASLA president and CEO attend with us. We have representatives from the NCARB organization, from the Engineer and Surveyors organization, from interior designers. We have members that join us from the education community in landscape architecture. And the great thing about that is we have access to each other. We have a lot of small table discussions, and it's a really action-packed 2.5 days across the board. And you also will see regulators from most of the 56 jurisdictions where landscape architects are regulated, and they're there talking about the issues that they face with getting people licensed and keeping them licensed. So if you go on, benefits for our annual meeting sponsorship is, again, I've already mentioned a lot of these things, but I think the third bullet there is what really pulls it all together for me. It's having a small, more intimate setting in our annual meeting, we feel like is a great opportunity for our industry partners and those that have expertise to kind of join us and share your expertise and knowledge with our community. And you can sit right there alongside all of the other decision makers that are working in the regulatory community for landscape architecture. So going on, there's a list. There's 6 different categories of annual meeting opportunities. They range from under $1,000 to up to, I think, nine or $10,000, depending on what that looks like. And so we have everything from a general sponsorship to hospitality offerings that you can see there. One of the categories that we really talked a lot about was making our meeting more sustainable. What does that look like? How can we bring in partners that can help support us in lowering our carbon footprint, which is a challenge a lot of in-person meetings face? So things like recycling and not creating more waste is something that we're trying to do more of. There's also the opportunity to support and get your typical swag out there from lanyards and everything else to engaging and actually having a named keynote speaker and introducing and participating in plenary sessions. So lots of really good opportunities to be able to expose yourself to the community that shows up at this annual meeting. So the details for this year are September 19th to the 21st in Buffalo, New York. You can see everything there. We will have landscape architects, ASLA chapter leaders at the annual meeting. We'll have some advocacy chairs for the first day. And also, because that ties into a licensure summit that we are co-hosting with the ASLA as part of the work that we're doing with them to continue to advance and defend licensure. So Alyssa's back on the screen, so I'm going to turn to her.
Great. Okay. And so now we'll shift to the third opportunity, which is advertising through Multiview. So we partner with Multiview. They are North America's largest B2B publisher. You probably received some e-newsletters kind of related to the industry that you're in already from Multiview, but it's basically it's a bi-weekly newsletter and it combines CLARB content with industry news. And that goes out to our 6,500 emerging and licensed landscape architects. And that is something where it's an advertising agreement. It's managed through Multiview, and they offer reporting on the stats and the numbers and things like that. So if you're really looking for hard numbers, hard data, this is a great opportunity. And then also going back to the supporting partners program, those benefits, the benefits of being a supporting partner includes a subscription to this newsletter, as well as recognition in that content that we get to supply. So on the left here, this is an example of what our e-newsletter looks like. And then on the right is the archive. And you can actually visit the archive and see all of the content that we've had in all of our past issues to date, just to kind of give you a sense of the types of articles and news that we're including. And then this is just a snapshot of the media kit that Multiview provides. So this kind of will give you a way to visualize how your ad would look and kind of like the specs and requirements for each of the different placements. Okay, And so just to kind of review, so year-round visibility, that's going to be something you'll get with becoming a supporting partner. So that's a great way to engage with our 6,500 emerging and licensed landscape architects. If you're looking for more of in-person engagement with our members and volunteers and nonprofit partners, then we would definitely encourage you to consider sponsoring the annual meeting. And then if you're looking for just a bi-weekly kind of quick touch point by email to our emerging and licensed landscape architects, that's something to you'll want to consider advertising in the CLARB Council Record newsletter, and that is distributed by Multiview. Okay, so before we pause for questions, I'm just going to show a couple of websites to kind of talk through what you can expect. And I just want to make sure that, can you see my web browser?
Yes.
Okay, so this is our main sponsorship webpage. And then if you are interested in getting more information on the supporting partners, you will end up here. This is just a form that we'll have you fill out, and then we'll contact you to complete the payment. If you're interested in purchasing a sponsorship for the annual meeting, then that goes through our Whova website. And if you see here, all of the options are here. There's a description and a little bit more info there as well. And you can pay with a credit card and take care of everything there online. And then for Multiview, I just wanted to point out, so this is the ad specs and pricing. This is what I showed earlier. And then a little bit more about some of the benefits and how to get in touch with a Multiview sales rep. So just wanted to point those out and just make you aware of those. And so if you are ready to purchase, these QR codes will get you there. And you can also head to clarb.org/support for all the details on all of the programs. Okay, so looks like we have a couple more minutes that we can take questions. Does anyone have questions? Let's see. If anybody's got their hand raised. Brian, did you have a question?
Yeah. Hi, Alyssa. This is Brian Verardo from New Mexico. I had a question for you a little bit about the fact that this is kind of new for CLARB. I know we saw some pricing models for some of these subscriptions moving forward, but how do you see this moving into the future for CLARB? It sounds like it's something that's got a lot of potential for the organization, but do you have any thoughts about how it expands beyond just 2024 or the next couple of years with the annual meeting and such?
Yeah, great question, Brian. It's good to see you again. So I think what's really exciting for us is there are just so many ways that we can tailor packages to whatever goals you're trying to reach as a sponsor. And so, we've talked, I think Veronica mentioned this a little bit, but we host a lot of different webinars throughout the year that are targeted towards different audiences and kind of have different purposes. So that's a great way. We're seeing, opportunities for sponsors to not only sponsor the webinar, but also, co-present and kind of be able to share some of their expertise and their knowledge to our audience groups. We've also looked at, scholarships for the exam. We know that that's, something that would be very well received by our exam candidates and would not only, offer opportunities for sponsors to get their name out there and kind of get those warm, fuzzy feelings associated with their brand. And then we also recently we launched a virtual tour of downtown Greenville, South Carolina. And that was something where users can sort of walk through this virtual tour, click on interactive elements and see videos and drawings and explanations of how a landscape architect, made an impact on this space and how their skills transformed it. And so we'd love to be able to do that more throughout North America. And so we feel like that would be a great opportunity for a sponsor to, be affiliated with that and help us make that happen. So those are some ideas. Veronica and Matt, did you guys want to add anything?
I would just add that I think, one of the areas that we hope to be able to grow into is kind of exposing firms, especially to, emerging landscape architects, so that there is an opportunity for exposure to potential future employees. So whether that be through, some type of list or, database, that sort of thing, or, just through the council record connection, again, our webinars, we hope to be able to expand in areas that will make those valuable connections to, rising landscape architects and those that are looking for those employment opportunities.
And I'd add to that is that I think one of the challenges we're seeing and we're hearing a lot from not just our state boards, but also those that are licensed, is the opportunity to easily acquire valid continuing education. There's a lot of continuing education out there. Some of it's really good, some of it is not. And having some valid opportunities for our record holders in particular, and our partners and others that have expertise to be able to step into that and maybe either sponsor or actually present strong pieces that are tied to health, safety, and welfare from landscape architecture on the CE side. As we know, many states, I think about 2/3 of our or more of our jurisdictions require continuing ed for renewal of licensure. And so to be able to help facilitate that for the record holders that are always chasing continuing education and can't get to an annual meeting in person, that's very costly, is another opportunity I see for us, is being able to expand that for the people that are out there trying to get those hours.
See, I'm not seeing any other questions. Give it maybe just a few more seconds if anybody wants to jump in.
Well, Alyssa, just to keep the conversation moving, if us, we're starting small, and what would you recommend to a sponsor if they wanted to start small?
Yeah, good question. It really depends on your goals. And like I mentioned before, we're happy to kind of work with you to figure out what's going to work best. But I would really take a look at becoming a supporting partner. So this year, we're about to start the second half of the calendar year. And so, for about $2,000, you will get a ton of exposure, especially kind of starting with us on the ground floor. We're excited to promote these new programs, and we're excited to promote our partners. And so, you'll be featured in the newsletter, you'll be in our social media, you'll be in, other emails and on our website. And so there's just a lot of great opportunity there to kind of get a taste for, how you'll kind of get into our orbit and kind of be part of our world. And so I would definitely consider the supporting partners, kind of see how it goes. And then next year, if you're interested in maybe adding, sponsoring a webinar series or part of the annual meeting, that's another great opportunity there. Oh, it looks like Brian got another question. Let's see.
Sorry to be the person asking all the questions, but while you were talking, it made me think of another question, which is, I know that this year the ASLA and CLARB are co-hosting the licensure summit that sort of is around the same time as the annual meeting. We've received, I know in my firm, a couple of us have received requests for sponsorship opportunities or notices about sponsorship opportunities for that licensure summit. Can you tell me what CLARB is doing is either different or sort of, what synergy there may be between those two sponsorships? just so that I'm not confused. You know, I'm working with my partners to kind of identify what we want to support, but want to make sure we're not sort of doubling up on something or missing an opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question, Brian. And yes, you're right. The CLARB ASLA Licensure Summit will actually take place immediately prior to the CLARB annual meeting. And sponsors do have the opportunity to contribute to both, one or the other or both. So the Licensure Summit brings together members of the regulatory boards and state chapter leadership to really, strategize on how we improve our licensure policies across the country. And so the audience for that particular event are primarily licensed landscape architects. So, if that's the audience you really want to be in front of, that particular event might be where, it would be most advantageous for you. The CLARB annual meeting, while we also have licensed landscape architects, in attendance, there's also it's also members of the regulatory community. So you'll have some crossover between each event, but they are two separate events, and the sponsorship opportunities are different for the Licensure Summit. Through it, and the sponsorships are being, collected through ASLA, and the sponsorship opportunities for the CLARB annual meeting. We would encourage you to consider both. I think there is a great opportunity to really get in front of, two audiences with some overlap, to really demonstrate your support of landscape architectural licensure.
And Veronica, I think you may have mentioned this, but this is not something that takes place annually, the Licensure Summit, Brian. So this is a rare opportunity if that's something you wanted to support. We typically see those, we do them virtually, but an in-person licensure summit like this typically takes place once every 4 or 5 years when we have the momentum to get something together.
Yeah, great point, Matt.
Thank you.
Well, in the interest of time, I think we're going to have to leave it there. So this is our contact information. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and look for an email coming from us soon with some additional information and recording of today's webinar. And we just want to say thank you for being with us today, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.